Now, the rule we need to remember when we add or subtract fractions is that we must always have a common denominator. It's not possible to add or subtract fractions unless you have that denominator in common. And if you aren't given two fractions with the same denominator in the question, you make them equivalent fractions with the same denominator. So let's look at an example. We'll do 3/5 add 1/8. Now obviously they don't have a common denominator at the moment, so I need to think of a number that I can use as their common denominator, and it will need to be a multiple of both 5 and 8. The easiest one to think of is 5 multiplied by 8, so 40. So I'm now going to write them both as equivalent fractions over 40. Make sure you get this method correct, because this is sometimes where lots of people lose marks. You multiplied the 5 by 8 to get 40, which means you need to do the same to that numerator on the top. And 3 times 8 gives you 24. So 24 over 40 is my equivalent fraction to 3/5. Likewise, with the 8, I multiplied that by 5 to get 40, so I'll do the same to the top, and 1 multiplied by 5 is 5. So I've now rewritten them as equivalent fractions with the same denominator. And now I can just add them. 24 over 40 add 5 over 40 gives me a final answer of 29 over 40. We always check to see if we can simplify that answer, but because 29 is a prime number and doesn't go into 40, 29 over 40 is the simplest form. Let's look at an example where we're subtracting, but the same rules apply. 7/9 subtract 5/7. Again, no common denominator, so we have to find our common denominator, which in this case we'll use as 63. It won't always necessarily be the product of those two denominators, but it's always a good way of finding a common denominator if you can't think of another number. Looking back then, we did 9 multiplied by 7 to get 63, so do the same to the numerator to give me 49 over 63. Here we multiplied that denominator by 9, we do the same to the top, and it gives us 45. So I have 49 over 63, take away 45 over 63, gives me a final answer of 4 over 63, which again is in its simplest form. Last one we'll look at is a mixture of the two. 3/8 plus 2/3 subtract 1/6. So I actually have 3 fractions in this question. The method will stay exactly the same though. We need to find a common denominator for those 3 numbers. A lowest common multiple of 3, 6 and 8 would be 24. So I'm going to write them all as fractions over 24. And now all I need to do is go back to work out what my new numerators are going to be. So the 8 would have been times by 3 to get 24. So we do the same to the top to give me 9 over 24. The 3 would have been multiplied by 8, so I do the same to the numerator to give me 16 over 24. And finally, my 6 here would have been multiplied by 4 to get 24, so I do the same to the numerator, which gives me 4 over 24. Now they're all over the same denominator, and I can just work through and do the addition and subtraction. So 9 over 24 add 16 over 24 would give me 25 over 24. But then I've got to subtract 4 over 24, which will leave me with an answer of 21 over 24. Now this fraction isn't in its simplest form, as it has a common factor of 3. So dividing the top and bottom by 3 would give me my simplified final answer of 7/8.